you're working well with your groups, you grow with that bond the more you play.
I'm always having fun and having the time of my life.
A group of kids who meet each week at the library share two things in common. They all love D&D and they're all homeschooled.
Gnomes! I hate gnomes!
The cast and crew of AFK the web series are gearing up to crowdfund a third and final season. We'll go through the history of this immersive RPG-related dramedy. From the game table to the world at large, how these shapes and colors on a customized character sheet are helping the neurodiverse. And just what the hell is this? We'll take you through the steps of solving this cryptic message. This and much more. It's February 22nd, 2020. Time to check in with all corners of the multiverse.
From the D20 News Network, where the roles come first. This is Multiverse Monthly.
Hello everybody, welcome to the premiere episode of Multiverse Monthly. I'm Chase Irwin. The D20 News Network launched almost 6 months ago, and in that time we've interacted with hundreds of TTRPG fans and creators just like you, in the hopes of highlighting the unique and interesting things this community has to offer one another. Our Kickstarter was funded in September, with the promise of providing a news magazine that would be fun and informative. And at the end of today's show, we'll be taking time to thank each and every Kickstarter who backed this project. I sincerely hope this meets with your approval. We'll talk more about how you can tell us how we can improve and how you can be a part of future editions of Multiverse Monthly throughout the program. But first, a follow-up to an interview we brought you in October. Dallas Barnett is one of the stars of AFK, a streamable dramedy series about a group of gamers who somehow get transported into the world they played in, becoming the characters they created. Both seasons of the series were successfully crowdfunded, and the crew is turning to the fans one last time as they prepare for a third and final season. Here now is the story of AFK up to this point.
AFK is a web series. It's a fantasy web series, fantasy drama, comedy web series, some action. So it's all things for all people, really. Taking something that's quite established, you know, the group of adventurers in a fantasy landscape, and putting a modern spin on it.
We all play the same video game. This video game. They wake up in this new world, in new bodies.
As they find themselves in the game, inside the game, they find that they actually need to fight for survival. I mean, they could literally die.
And it's also about the skills that you bring with you into the game. Like Mia's character Q is very capable. She knows hunting, she knows how to make a bow, she knows outdoor survival skills.
And I do actually know how to make a bow.
You do now?
Yeah.
Where did you learn how to do it? YouTube.
So she's got that advantage, whereas lots of other people, they come into the game with knowing only what they know in the real world. So Callum's character Jack, although he's got the coolest armor and the coolest weapons.
This is my enchanted tier 4 necrotic leather raid set with agility bonus gems.
The coolest hair.
Damn, I wish I had a mirror. Hey Lego, how hot am I?
He doesn't actually know that much about surviving in the wilderness, so that puts him at a disadvantage.
I already found you annoying, but now I'm actively starting to dislike you, which is not something you want because I'll cut you loose.
I would admit that I'm a bit of a geeky gamer and
Nerd.
Hey, and you know, I would lie if I said that I never thought about what would happen if I suddenly woke up in a game. Although my games are probably a little bit more violent and vicious than this, and I probably would be gone in about a couple of seconds.
It's made by people who love games. It's made by people who love LARPing. It's made by people who truly get into every aspect of what this web series is trying to speak. We are all you.
I was really sold on the character concepts and the script. The script really sold me, and the story really sold me.
We're too exposed.
I wasn't going to say anything.
There's some great costumes. Yeah, it was challenging wearing a metal bikini because everyone else was really covered and I just had to deal with my body issues.
2 Alpha, take 4.
Action! I think what hopefully makes this series different is the variety of the group of characters. I like to describe it as Lord of the Rings meets Battle Royale meets The Breakfast Club, because we've got all these guys who would never interact in the real world, and they're forced together to work together to survive.
So we only have one thing in common. We all play the same video game. This video game.
What happened to the villagers, the farmers, the food vendors?
Yeah, where's the guy who runs the bar?
They're not here. It's just us, the players.
This isn't right! I'm 15! Look at this rotting sack of flesh I'm trapped in!
I'm a girl, goddammit! I only played the gnome because I was sick and tired of guys hitting on me!
You're probably pretty safe from that now.
I'm a guy.
God damn it.
If I was gonna be looking at an ass on screen all day, it might as well be a nice ass. Damn, this is a nice ass.
I've got the weirdest boner right now. That's all wrinkly too.
I always hated this character in the movies, you know? She finally gets to live in a fantasy world like she always dreamed, and the first thing she wants to do is go home.
I don't want to go home.
The entire player base of the game is here. Every power gamer, every player killer, every griefer, every ganker, every camper, every ninja, every asshole you've ever come across while playing, they're all here.
I'm not a wizard, I can't do magic. I'm just a dude in a onesie.
Warriors, come out and play.
I'm a rogue!
No! I hate gnomes!
What are you doing? He's from the enemy faction.
And he's a player just like us. He's only 8 years old.
There is no one else here to help us. We're going to have to hunt for ourselves, cook for ourselves, and clean for ourselves.
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
I just can't figure you out.
I need to survive this.
If we're stuck here, then we're going to survive. I have a kid waiting for me. There are no respawn points, no resurrection spells. You die here, and you're gone.
Damn, girl, where did you learn how to fight like that?
LARPing.
That was a look at a proof of concept video for AFK, which was recorded about 7 years ago. Joining me now to talk about the hopefully upcoming final season, and our first return guest, Dallas Barnett from his home in New Zealand. So Dallas, what was the audition for this show like? Did you get any preparatory notes beforehand?
You know, here's the thing. Everybody that was in the original concept video, myself and Mia and Callum and Barry, we'd all worked with Peter a time or two in the past. We knew his workflow. He knew our strengths and our weaknesses, and he handpicked the characters for who he wanted to play them. He knows the actors he wanted to work with. He hired the actors he wanted to work with and just said, here is what I want you to do. There's your character. Go nuts. You own it. So we have a lot of input into our character. We were given a basic outline, like Veruga. Spoiler alert, Veruga's an 8-year-old boy that joined the game so he could play with his brother. Behind the scenes, my headcanon is that I mean, I know the city he grew up in, where he lives in right now. I know the his parents' situation. I know why he feels like he does. And it's just building the character up over a matter of years. And, you know, there's a lot of, everybody in the cast does the same stuff.
And this is a relatively unique situation for an actor. You're essentially playing two people, the character that we see on the show, the in-game character, and then also the person who was playing the game before they were transported. Was that a bit of a challenge?
Here's the thing. I'm playing Kevin. I'm not playing Veruga. I'm not playing who he is back home. I'm playing Kevin. I'm playing a scared 8-year-old little boy that suddenly finds himself in a 360-pound, 18 double-aught base strength monster. And it's got to be a little confusing because he's, at this point in his life, he is bully bait. His headcanon, his school days are not pleasant because he's small for his age. His brother beats him up at home. His mom and dad have their own issues. That's why him and his brother have sunk into this game. And it's just getting all those pieces together and playing Kevin. And everything else is icing at that point.
Now, Season 2 was released about 2 or 3 years after the first, and 3 months passed in the show. Does the passage of time in the story help make up for the passage of time for the cast?
You know, it's like I said, it's obvious I kind of live with the character. I own the armor, I own all the weaponry, I own the headcanon, obviously. And most of the people in the cast are very similar. They have a lot invested in their characters. Mine is a bit of a challenge because I'm such a young player, not PC. I've got to reach way back to my earliest memories and figure out what that skinny, undersized, bullied kid felt like. And imagine what that would be like to finally have some kind of power. I think you're going to see some very interesting character development around Veruga this season. I haven't read the scripts. I've got some ideas, but I haven't been given anything to read yet. But there's going to be some... Rumor is there's Veruga and Mac have a very cool arc this season, so stay tuned for that, okay?
What has been your favorite situation or trait for your character in the past 2 seasons? Has there been a defining moment for that character?
I don't think we've seen defining moments for a lot of the characters yet. We kind of get an idea of who and what they are as the story goes on, but I don't think a lot of us have had our, dun 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 moment yet. So hopefully we'll see that from Veruga in season 3. The relationship with Q, I think, is beautiful. And not to get sappy here, but they rely on each other. Veruga is her surrogate child at home, and Q is Veruga's the person that doesn't bully him. Because I mean, if you watch the character throughout the season, everybody bullies him except for her.
Now, with this 3rd season being the last, is there something in the way of closure that you hope will happen for your character or for the story as a whole?
Oh, we're getting closure. we're getting closure on this. I haven't read the ending yet, but I don't think Peter is the Game of Thrones style writer and director. I kind of hope he is, but we'll see. There's going to be pain, loss, joy, dancing, you name it. We're going to do it this season. We're going out very, very, very big. We're going to finish the story off, and word has got around a little bit that there are discussions going amongst the production staff about possibly having spin-offs or such like that with characters outside this storyline. I've seen it mentioned a few times in meeting notes and stuff like that. And, I'm all for it. I would love to take Veruga on a journey. personally. I think there's a lot of character left there to develop, because I mean, we're only 3 seasons in. This is like less than a year in story time, and I don't think we've seen a lot of the characters, as a matter of fact. I mean, I'd like to see everybody kind of break off on their own little subset of miniseries. I think that would be pretty epic. But yeah, I think there's a lot more character left for a lot of these characters, and yeah, let's get season 3 made first, and then we'll work on breaking off some of the main characters and maybe even some of the NPCs. Yeah, if I could just take a moment here and say thanks to our legions of fans and friends over the past 5 years. It's been a really cool ride, and want to thank everybody for inviting us onto your screens, and we'll see where the future goes from here. If everybody wants it a lot, then we'll see about the spin-offs and in-world shows with that. Get in behind us. $1, $10, $10,000, whatever you can spare. We want to finish this story in a grand way, and you know, $1 million would get us dragons, okay? Just saying.
The Kickstarter to fund the 3rd and final season of AFK starts in March. For more details, visit d20nn.com and catch up on the first 2 seasons. They're available on YouTube, fansupported.com, and on Amazon Prime Video. Speaking of Kickstarter, here's a peek at some of February's successful projects. It's a typical Wednesday morning at the Austin Public Library's Central Branch. Not terribly busy for a big city library, but you'll still find a few people doing research. Lounging around with a good book, naturally. And a small group of kids opens up a crate of Dungeons & Dragons materials and begins the next chapter of their weekly campaign. Wait, shouldn't these kids be in school? Well, technically they are. They're among the thousands of students in the greater Austin area who are homeschooled.
A lot of people think that homeschooling and unschooling really means like you're just home and doing absolutely nothing, watching YouTube, just chilling. But actually in reality, if you want to, because it's about you and not what your parents want you to do, really you just ask to learn something or to do something or to go to the library or have fun.
It's that premise of just ask that led to the creation of this D&D group 2 years ago, according to the group's founder, Max.
We all started playing D&D, and we had this great idea. We were like, after 3 or 4 weeks of playing D&D in the front hallway, we asked Susan, one of the librarians we knew from before this library was here, and we asked her and Heath if we could start a group. And they were all totally enthusiastic about it.
Just like the characters in the opening session of a new game, most of these kids met each other for the first time by answering an ad for the group.
So my mom, during the summer, she's always on the library page. They have this little section for kids, teens, adults, and different things that they can do. Especially during summer, there's always types of different things to do. So she found the group, and I joined one time, and it was whoa, I love this. This is rad.
And like any well-rounded party, each member brings their own strengths and backgrounds to the table.
I usually do. I'm probably usually the last person to decide. I'm more of the thinker more than rushing into things.
The group's DM is 14-year-old Joseph. He's on the autism spectrum.
I'm a very high-functioning person. I think I had like an IQ of 160 in kindergarten when I was tested for GT in kindergarten. But I actually am in the 2E category of kids of often once you go past a certain point of intelligence, you're getting mental disabilities with that. Like the kind of chill out atmosphere that this group has of it just there's just not much pressure. I mean, people don't really care about the rules too much. It's just kind of a group that I can go to have fun as opposed to more going to enjoy the role playing and the story of the world. I basically use this as a testing ground for the ideas I have for my real group, for my main group, which is the one I do on Sunday.
During the club's existence, the kids made do with a basic supply kit provided by the library, a player's handbook, and a monster manual. And by and large, the club brings in their own supplements and expansions. Joseph finds himself using D&D Beyond for a lot of this game's adventures. On the plus side, it infuses the library game with more adventures and confrontations, but not all the kids are subscribers, and they sometimes find themselves scrambling through the printed material they have on hand trying to keep up.
Yeah, like Xanthar's Guide to Everything. That's a big one because there's a lot of, because like we said, we use D&D Beyond, and some of the stuff like that Joseph, our DM's talking about, we're like, what in the world is that? I've never seen that in the books that we have. Bro. I was like, yeah, he's like, this is the expansion books. We don't have them here, and so you don't read them.
Luckily, this seems to be the only real hurdle for the homeschool club, which finds itself learning more about each other with each session.
This is like a second home to me. So like, but now that I've gone into this group, like I always get to hang out with my friends, Max and Sam, and like I just get to hang out with everybody, and it's like literally a second home to me. Like I can have fun, and my parents are there, so they're like not judging me, and so I'm always having fun. And
our Wednesdays are just have all the stuff, and so we have D&D, right? And that's always a blast. It gets us mentally ready for the day. Often gets our yayas out. D&D just makes it. I feel like the day is empty without D&D. I feel like I need to do something, and I loved before the D&D group. I loved making content.
I'm really happy that the library offers it for us, and really happy that we've gone so long with it. Having the time of my life. Do 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 do.
D20NN spoke with a staff member at D&D Beyond who tells us they do have the capability of implementing access to the full digital catalog to the library system. Now, we passed that information on to the library. APL's Heath Rezebeck also told us that the library system's purchasing committee is bringing what he calls an infusion of D&D materials to the youth section. We checked in with the club last week and are happy to report that the club has grown to the point that there are 2 different groups meeting to play separate campaigns.
Good morning. Now, I'm sitting out here enjoying a fresh cup of found familiar coffee. You know, I've decided that our home, we're going to toss out all the other coffees that we've gotten at the store. And you know why? It's because Found Familiar hand selects each type of coffee they sell. What was that? Keep going. Okay. Fine. They handle all the production themselves, and they even package their coffee with art from the TTRPG community. And again, this coffee is so good, I don't feel the need to add creamer. Why is this happening? Keep going. Okay. Order some Found Familiar coffee for yourself. I'm sure you'll agree. It's the best coffee for any meal of the day, including breakfast.
Enjoy 10% off your order by entering code D20NN10 at foundfamiliar.com.
You guys better not ask me for a second take. I'm not going to be putting makeup again for this.
Can you tell what this message says? Coded messages are a fun and clever way to add an extra element of surprise and mystery to your game. We all know about your standard jumble code. That's where one letter actually represents a different letter. To make things extra complex, you might even scramble a crucial part of your note to further confuse your enemies. But in tabletop games, one likes to be a bit more creative and use symbols that may take a bit more time to decipher. One such cipher code was sent to us by Twitter user Darkest Argentum. He sent us this message, along with one hint: the clue is in your pocket. He's allowed us to share the secrets regarding this one, so let's take it step by step. Look closely at any of the characters in this message, and you'll notice that the left half of each symbol is mirrored by the right side. Ignore the right side of each character, and you have a number. So let's ignore the mirrored numbers. And we're left with this. What numbers do you see? 1 through 9, and the weird crossed over character was made from 2 zeros. Now remember our clue. It doesn't take a lot of thought to realize that the one thing usually in everybody's pocket is a cell phone, and the phone's keypad contains the numbers 1 through 9 and 0. And your phone keypad, just like all telephones, has a set of letters underneath most of the buttons. But that's not the final answer to our coded message, because for every number on the keypad, there are 3 or 4 possible letters, and the numbers 1 and 0 aren't designated any letters at all, and there are quite a lot of zeros and ones in this message, so it's not a simple number for letter code. Now, if you notice in our message, the number 0 only appears by itself, and noticeably between other clusters of numbers. So back to our how to text lesson. On old school cell phones, you had to press the same number a certain number of times in quick succession in order to achieve the desired number. For instance, to get the letter A, you had to press the number 2 once. To get to B, you would press the number 2 twice, and so on down the line. And for spaces, you would usually press the 0 key. So, let's treat each 0 as a space and remove them entirely. Our message has 9 clusters of numbers, so it's safe to assume our note has 9 words. Look at every other number in our message. It's either a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Our phone's alphanumeric keys can type either 3 or 4 letters based on the number you press. Now, if our theory is correct, then each cluster is not made up of 4 letters, but actually 2 pairs of numbers. The first number tells you what number on the phone you would press if you were texting, and the second number tells you how many times to press the button to arrive at that letter. So let's test our theory. Number 6 once is M. Number 7 3 times is R. MR. That's not a word, but it could be an abbreviation. Let's continue on. 9 once, 2 once, 8 once, 7 4 times. Now remember, there are 4 letters on the 7 key. 6 3 times, and 6 2 times. Watson. Mr. Watson. By Jove, I think we've got it. Now we can confidently fill out the rest of this message. If you know how the rest of this famous quote ends, well done. If you don't, work out the rest of the message for yourself using our cipher key, and check your work at the end of the show.
So, Michael Casey, I go by Nix on Twitter, kind of interchangeable. I got apprenticed in high school by a friend of the family in glasswork. She primarily did stained glass and a little bit of etching. Never really did catch to the stained glass, but boy did I glom onto the glass etching. 16, 17, I learned how to do the basics of that. Very much old school, get a picture, make a design by hand, all freehand. Use a light table to transfer it to some type of vinyl, clear contact shelf paper, and then apply it to your glass, hand cut, and sandblast. then it just kind of fell by the wayside. At that point, I was just like, well, you know, what skills do I have? You know, use my last little chunk of money that I had and just picked up a sandblaster. I already had a small light table, and so I just, you know, started with a Sharpie marker and just started making designs. Fun fact, I've only played D&D once, and that was 20 years ago. A little bit of Shadowrun, a little bit of the World of Darkness stuff, some Vampire the Masquerade, a little bit of Werewolf the Apocalypse. So I've always had an interest in tabletop RPGs and like video game RPGs and stuff like that. World building, I've always loved. But I do enjoy watching and consuming the content. I started with other nerdy fandoms like Firefly stuff and Star Trek stuff and Star Wars stuff and anything that's got like some cool iconography, you know, stuff like that. That's where I started, and then I just, you know, working in my garage. I started out with just doing your standard crafty stuff, and then I started like, what would I want? You know, like I started making stuff for me. Be a part of the community. Don't be Walmart, you know. Just be a person at the giant bazaar that is whatever your community is, and because everybody's got something to offer, and just flow with it.
As part of our series on accessibility in tabletop gaming, we're always looking for products created by you to help yourself or others. Now, if you aren't familiar with dyslexia, this Spider-Man meme may help explain it. Now, it's a joke, obviously, but it helps illustrate how dyslexics have a hard time distinguishing similar-looking letters from one another. Now, take a look at this. It's a new character sheet for D&D. It looks remarkably different than your everyday sheet, and there's more shapes and even a splash of color or two. This was a project by two online friends, Alex and Keith. Alex has dyslexia, and the sheet helps them rely on other visual cues when everyday fonts are just a bit of a muddle. Earlier, I spoke with Alex and Keith to learn more about the disorder and why one sheet just won't fit all. Let's start off by talking about why we made these character sheets. Who was the sheet originally made for?
It was made for me.
Yeah, that'd be for Gordy.
Pretty much I was struggling really hard with the game. I've always struggled, and I just happened to be over with my laptop, and Keith suggested we make me a sheet since I had Photoshop.
Yeah, it kind of came down to I was DMing, and I had no quarrel with trying to just adjust things if they had problems with specific areas or something, something small just to help them understand, to grasp where things were more efficiently, as well as I've always had little thoughts of you could change this, take that out, move that type thing. So it kind of just came around.
How long did it take to come up with the final layout for the sheet? How did you come to the one that you're using right now?
I want to say 12 hours working with Keith, and I want to say 4 to 6 extra hours on my own because I couldn't sleep that night. It was a lot because it's something that a lot of people don't realize is that every single text on that is an individual layer, so every single word is individual.
Other than Photoshop, what utilities are you all using to make these sheets?
I honestly just Photoshop. I have custom brushes, and we were lucky enough to get permission from another Reddit user named Lookpack to use his assets, and those were basically what we used to format the whole sheet.
Yeah, his assets were basically any of the icons you see that aren't originally from the D&D sheet. Those are all him.
Yeah, the muscle arm, the hearts, all that was thankfully from him.
And then I went, hey, why don't post these on Reddit. Like you went through all this trouble making them, that maybe someone else could benefit from them.
Yeah,
And,
it took you like 3 hours to convince me to post it.
yeah. But and of course before we posted, I messaged Luckpack and said, hey, do you mind? Luck, yeah, totally, 100%.
Is it important that there are colors used in this? I see color coordination between a certain stat and a certain other portion. Are those matching colors deliberate?
Yes. Not for me though. Key's partner T actually requested that to help them. I believe it was to remember as well as to quickly find the stat they needed. Is that correct?
Yeah. The color coordination is between the ability and the stat that ability uses. The stat and the ability that stat uses. Pardon me.
People have been submitting other languages. I noticed that they've been doing them only in black and white, so I've been trying to convert it to the colors.
Swinging back to Luckpack for a moment, shapes are another visible deviation from your standard character sheet. Are shapes another widely used technique to help people with dyslexia?
To be quite honest, neither of us are experts. We've solely made it based on my own experiences and what helped me. And over the years, I realized that shapes really helped me for like when trying to find a certain stat. My brain does a picture. It might be because I'm also an artist, but pictures are always easier for me to associate with. It's like, okay, I need strength. That's the flexing arm. Or my health is the heart. It's just a lot easier for me personally to associate something with a photo.
Yeah, that's where a lot of this came from. Is not necessarily because as Gordy said, neither of us claim in any way, shape, or form to be experts on this. It was we made this to help Gordy because as a DM, and I know one of our other DMs has commented they're very happy because it's helped to cut through the clerical work of Dungeons and Dragons was, I believe, her exact wording. It's just to help Gordy, and then I kind of stopped and went, well, we put a ton of work in this. There's no reason other people couldn't benefit from it. So I know Gordy and I have talked a lot about. We see a lot of people talking about the fonts and this, that, and the other. You should change this. This helps me more, and I'm sure it does. We made it for Gordy. We don't claim that this is perfect for everyone.
We did make an editable version because people were requesting a lot of changes. It's like, if you want, here you go. Because it's a lot of work and time I sadly don't have to do it myself.
Gotcha. It does sound like it would be a challenge to make a sheet for dyslexics that is universal. You said that you did yours based on your personal experience. Has there been feedback about what other things you could do to help certain other people?
Honestly, it's just been fonts. For me personally, the common font people kept suggesting was Open Dyslexia, which does not work for me. Comic Sans does for me and a lot of people, but I also have very moderate dyslexia. We did have somebody who was a severe dyslexic mention that Comic Sans is horrible for them because it's just so clunky. So that's why it's so hard to make a universal one. And
also
again,
why you offer an editable version, so that
that was going to be my put is, of course, and we put that out there very specifically. If anyone's watching this, please edit it, do what you need to make it work for you. That's kind of the whole point.
Personally, do not know anyone who has told me that they are dyslexic, and what interested me most was this thing about the fonts. People who don't have problems with reading don't think that maybe the typeface is a possible solution to helping someone read. What specifically is it about the fonts that are helping?
I struggle with fonts where a lot of the letters look the same. For example, in the base font for Discord, for example, M's, N's look exactly the same to me. E's and A's, and B's and D's. Because there's very minute differences. But with Comic Sans, every letter is designed to be different. Like, you can't confuse the two.
Don't forget as well, the other big one is capital. Using capital letters tends to help.
Do you both have dyslexia, or is it just Alex?
It's just me. Keith, he doesn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just me and a couple other people that he happens to DM with. I was shocked how many people in the group.
Yeah, that was one of the other reasons we looked at making it and looked at sharing it so much, is because I play with my significant other does have dyslexia. I know at least one other player that I play with has dyslexia. The DM of one of my other games has very mild dyslexia. We make jokes that I'm the token neurotypical one.
Yeah.
That's cool that you had all that reason to start this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and from what I understand, it also like put into perspective on how, and I had this conversation with somebody on how, as much as I like D&D, it is not learning disability friendly. To be quite honest, especially the printed books. I've looked at Keith's books, and it's like, how? Wait, huh?
Oh, the D&D books themselves, yeah. It's
actually, a pretty font, I'll give it that.
Yeah, it's actually, a lot of this has helped put, because I've said it before, I've said it in a couple different interviews, things and stuff I've written about. I think that D&D as a whole is something that I like to hope there's as little a gate or wall between it as possible. And I personally use it as something to try and explore concepts and things that I don't personally have, things I've never dealt with, things and ideologies that I don't personally have. And a lot of this is actually, it has helped me a lot with that, but this has actually helped me see a lot of things I'd never even considered at all.
Are there plans to further fine-tune the sheet, or are you moving on to some other document or something else to help with dyslexia?
We've been making small tweaks here and there when we realized that we screwed up on something, including like spelling errors that we missed that no one else caught. Or just like a good suggestion, or as for example, we made the edit of making them editable, so people have been translating and just working on them themselves.
Yeah, we've been talking. I have been playing with a couple friends trying to learn a little bit more about Pathfinder in hopes that we can Pathfinder Second Ed, in hopes that we might be able to do a version of that. It's quite the beast. I've got a few ideas here and there, but again, as I've talked with Gordy about, I'm not the dyslexic one, so I've got ideas on what I know, but it is complicated. Like I said, the decision tree, which is very heavily tailored to Gordy's characters, but not super complicated to make, and I want to write something about that with ours as examples, because I find that helps Gordy a lot with figuring out where they're going, especially Gordy does sharpshooter feat. So especially when I think Gordy you were the one who brought it up, Gordy, that it can really help. Do you want to use sharpshooter? Well, there are times when some people go nonverbal. Gordy has trouble when everyone's talking. Maybe if English isn't your first language, something like that. And so, well, wait a minute, Gordy rolled. Did they use sharpshooter? And we look, well, they've got a little washer they put on it. Well, it's on the side that says sharpshooter, yes or no. It's on yes, so we're going to go with yes.
Especially for me, I respond well to a physical thing. So we have an initiative tracker we made to work for my attacks. So I can keep track of my attacks. Or like just having a physical paper that says, here's all my options, is so much better than trusting my brain.
Yeah, and that was the other one I was going to mention. We did, like, they've got those initiative trackers, and Gordy and I sat down for a day and made a bunch. And I use one as an initiative tracker, but we also have attacks 1 through 8 and then action surge on one. So you've got attacks that and we can separate them that way, so that Gordy can also keep track of whether or not they've attacked, how many they've done. Do you want to use action surge this turn? Yada, yada, yada.
That's awesome. And you all need to be commended for it. It's absolutely wonderful.
I'm still waiting to wake up from the stream.
Yeah, Gordy keeps like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I'm like, we help people, Gordy. This is what happens sometimes.
It was just a thing to make me play the game. I wasn't expecting it to get thousands of downloads.
We're almost done for this week. If you have something you'd like to share with the community, email us at news@d20nn.com. You can also tweet us at d20net. Beyond news topics, we're also looking for artists and cosplayers to include in an online slideshow. No payola, no gimmicks. It's just a place for you to post your favorite works and link to your own sites. Also, special thanks go to this episode's sponsor, Found Familiar Coffee. We covered their product launch during our first month, and they do a tremendous job of uplifting the fantasy art community through their coffee packaging. Head to Also, special thanks go to this episode's sponsor, Found Familiar Coffee. We covered their product launch during our first month, and they do a tremendous job of uplifting the fantasy art community through their coffee packaging. Head to foundfamiliar.com and enter the code D20NN10 to snag 10% off your order. And now, last but not least, we close out this month's show with a special thanks to our Kickstarter backers who helped us get to this point. Till next time, Multiverse.